One Piece filler arcs. Am I the only one that loves the One Piece filler arcs? Maybe it's just the pre-time skip Homer in me, longing for the unknown again, longing for creativity. I mean, where else are you going to find a villain named Wicked Dick? Where else are you going to find golden panties as a reward? Where else are you going to find Foxy? Okay, that last part, I actually thought Foxy was filler this entire time. I thought Long Ring Longland was filler. Apparently it's not, even though Foxy appears everywhere in these filler arcs. He's canon! Who knew? So let's just go ahead. I went through and watched all these filler arcs, so you don't have to. I picked out the best ones, even though we all already know which one it is. Let's look at the worst ones. Let's just rank them all. Let's see what we got. I went and I looked at all the filler arcs. I actually included some mixed anime-only ones that are filler characters, but not necessarily filler arcs. I'll go ahead and talk about those. But yeah, let's just go ahead into it. Let's rank them. Okay, so to start, I've got the 3 filler characters I mentioned that aren't actually a part of filler arcs. I just thought they were either A, interesting, or B, important. So the first one we have is Daddy Masterson. Does anyone remember him? Is it just me? I feel like he was actually kind of cool, and a lot of people remember him. So maybe that's just my perception of it. But anyway, so he was in Logtown. He was formerly the Marine's best sniper turned bounty hunter. He now just collects bounties of weak troublemakers in the East Blue and then gives them to Smoker, who I didn't know until I rewatched it. He actually was enlisted with Smoker back in the day in the Marines, so that was interesting. But his whole thing is he now has a daughter, Carol, which is kind of his life, who he takes care of. And she went to a store where Usopp was trying to buy goggles. Usopp didn't have enough money, so Carol went and bought the goggles instead. Usopp didn't like that. So him and Carol got into a verbal argument. And eventually, Carol started crying to her dad, Daddy Masterson. Him and Usopp start talking, and then eventually they agree to a duel. And it's like a high noon style duel where the crowd's watching, Nami's there, and of course Usopp's just shaking uncontrollably. When the duel starts, Usopp throws a smoke bomb right as they're about to fight, and then he turns away and runs. And Daddy actually shoots at Usopp, but instead he shoots his gun away instead of actually shooting Usopp. And then someone says Usopp's name. I think had to be Nami, obviously. And he goes, "Usopp, are you Yasopp's son?" And he says yes. The reason he's no longer a Marine is because back in the day, Yasopp and him got in a duel where it was another high noon style duel, and Yasopp won. But instead of killing him, he spared his life. So he realized, hey, this is what's important to me is my daughter. So he gives Usopp grace and decides, hey, we don't have to have a duel. But then it gets really out of character because Usopp says, no, I want to do this a man's way. I want to have a duel like my father would, which is very un-Usopp-like. Usopp takes a coward way out regardless of how inspired he is, even though that's his goal. I think it was a little early in the story for him to be achieving his goal. So anyways, Daddy Masterson says, fine, I'll let you live if you can hit this weather vane with your slingshot from really far away. And eventually, he takes a shot, and he hits it, and he gets the goggles. So that was Daddy Masterson, former best sniper in the Marines. I thought he was really interesting, great design, even though this wasn't actually his original design that Oda gave him. So I'd watch that. Yes, I'd watch that. Not Chef's Kiss per se. I don't know if I can put any of these in Chef's Kiss, just the filler arc ones. But yeah, Daddy Masterson was pretty good. So second, we have Carmen, and I swear I'll speed up a little bit here. Carmen met a young Sanji back in the day on the Orbit and heard him talking about the East Blue, so they knew each other for a while. But nowadays, she's a cook in the East Blue, and she's trying to beat every other cook in the East Blue. Once she went to the Baratier, all the line cooks and everyone told her how great Sanji is. So she went to Logtown and searched for him for a full 10 days, and she was just flipping out. So eventually, they have a cook-off for the bluefin tuna, which is allegedly found only in the all blue. And there's not much to this episode, but look, I love cooking. Who doesn't love a good cooking episode, am I right? So I might be in the minority here, but I have this in the I'd watch that category because I thought Carmen was fun. I love a cook-off. We don't have a lot of cook-off moments in One Piece, but this is along with that. And next we have Scorpion. Does anyone remember Scorpion, or is it just me? I loved Scorpion. One, he had a great music soundtrack when he went to attack Ace. It was the only time it was used in One Piece that I remember, but it was really good. And on top of that, he was the entire reason that Ace was in Alabasta. Without Scorpion, Ace would not have been in Alabasta. He's the one that floated that rumor that Blackbeard was in Alabasta. So thank you, Scorpion. Otherwise, we would have gotten less of our limited Ace time than we already have. And for anyone wondering what he was about, he was just trying to have a better life for him and his sons if he captured Ace and turned him in. So that's why he dropped the Blackbeard rumors. And of course, he was no match for Ace. It was pretty quick. But yes, again, the whole reason he's in this list without being a filler arc character is that I'd watch that. So now let's get into the actual filler arcs. So the first one we have is Warship Island. And this is another one of those, like the early One Piece movies where it's an arc being led by a child. And I get it. Typically, I'm also really not a fan of arcs being led by children or movies or whatever. It's just kind of a pain. But Apis was different. Apis was really good. She's a devil fruit, the Hiso no Mi, which is a paramecia devil fruit, which lets her telepathically communicate with animals, which is pretty interesting. And she uses that to communicate with dragons. So the Straw Hats find her on a raft after she escapes from a marine ship, Marine Branch 8, which is led by Commodore Nelson Royale. Again, this is a character I actually liked. I know most people didn't like Nelson and Eric, but I thought they were fine. Nelson has a mercenary called Eric the Whirlwind, who Nami just straight up kills on the way up to Reverse Mountain. So skipping a little forward here. Does anyone remember that? Apparently this was not in the manga, this was just in the anime. Nami just straight up kills him. When they're going up Reverse Mountain, Eric just appears on the side of the ship and Nami just pushes him into the water. And remember, Eric has a devil fruit. So Nami just straight up capped him. Moral of the story, don't mess with Nami. In this arc, Marine Branch 8, Commodore Nelson Royale, he's trying to get something from the dragons called the Dragonite, which he believes is the elixir of life. So he eventually just chases them around, and Luffy just kicks his butt per usual. I thought it was good. I didn't think it was anything special, but again, I thought it was better than a lot of the previous editions of following a child around, particularly the first couple movies. So I was fine with it. Okay, so let's move into the Alabasta mini-filler arc, which is 3 separate episodes, 99, 98, and 102. I don't know why I started with 99 there, don't ask me. So this is the one that, 98 is the one that has the Barbar Pirates. It's very rare that I can watch a One Piece episode and have no recollection of it at all. This is on the list. It took me like 5 minutes to remember, okay, this actually happened. This is the episode where I think it was Nami and Vivi, might have been another character, were riding ahead of the rest of the group, just in the middle of the desert. They were looking for water, and they were riding ahead of the rest of the group on Eyelash. So eventually they come across a ship, and they get captured. And Luffy sees that ship, and he just flings himself over there and destroys the mast of the ship. And as he's just landing, he talks to the captain of the ship named Barbarossa, and they just have a great time. So then after they bro it out, they release Nami and Vivi, or whoever it was, and then Luffy just goes to, fix their ship. This is already kind of dumb. How do you capture someone, then just hang out with their captain for a minute, and then you're all just chill? So that was stupid. They're also pirates with umbrellas on their heads, which I guess makes some sense, right? Because they're in the desert, just hiding away from the sun. But a little bit odd, but it's not that big of a deal. But when they go to fix the ship, they go to a city of Melius, and this is where this episode just gets dumb. The city is where Raza was from, which is the girl right here. And the city is basically in ruins. I think it was destroyed by sand. The whole thing with Raza is she's really mad at Vivi because back in the day, Vivi was there as a child with Cobra. And she told Raza that, hey, I will never let your city go to ruin. I will be here to fix it. So Raza confronts her. Vivi just says, oh, I'm sorry. And we get no closure. There is no other scene. Vivi just says, I'm sorry, and then we don't see Raza respond to that. We see nothing. At the end of the episode, they're just waving at each other as the Straw Hats leave. So it's like, what was that? That part was really weird. This episode also has Ace dancing with the lizard, so that's how I remembered this episode, because I remembered that scene. I just had no memories of the Barbar Pirates. I have to put Raza in the Who category. If there's anyone out here who specifically remembers her, or the third member of the crew, write their name in the comments. That would be ridiculously impressive. Because I didn't say the name of the third named member of their crew. So if anyone knows it, yeah, you get points with me. So the next episode is with Camu. Camu is part of a fake rebel bodyguard group protecting one of the villages. Ace runs into them and then tells the Straw Hats, hey, I think there's some fake bodyguards. Vivi goes and says, I want to stop them, but realizes maybe they're actually helping because they're helping deter thieves and others because the rebel army has a reputation. So this whole episode is just the Straw Hats testing them and making them into more manly defenders because they weren't actually going to defend the village, but now that they did, they're like, maybe we should. So it's nothing great. I think this can go into the skip category. And then there was a third episode, which I didn't put in here, episode 102, where they just walk around ruins and they read a poneglyph that's not canon. So I didn't really include it in here because there's nothing really to note. I would put that in the skip category too. So next we have the post-Alabasta arcs. First one is they arrive at, I think it's Pineapple Island. I just put the picture of it with a pineapple. They search for fruit. Chopper has a flashback. Nothing special. Putting it in the Who category. And then next, there's actually 5 episodes in that group. So that was the first episode of that arc. The second one is with Sanji and a Marine who isn't a cook, but is going to be cooking for the Marine captains, Taijo. It was Taijo. So Taijo is on a Marine ship. The Straw Hats are just traveling after they left Pineapple Island or whatever, and they travel amongst a fog. They end up coming right next to a Marine ship, and they see a kid on the edge of the ship, and it ends up being Taijo. And they learn that he is responsible for cooking curry for Marine captains on the ship, or the fleet that he's with, and he has no idea how to do it. So eventually Sanji helps him make the curry. So I thought this one, it's not in the Who category, it wasn't that bad, I know who it is. You know, I mentioned I'd like the cooking, so I think this is a skip, I do. But as I mentioned, I love the cooking scenes. Any scene with Sanji cooking or in the anime, where there's anime cooking scenes in general, I'm all for. So it probably is a skip, but I'm going to put that in the I'd watch that category. So the next episode of that arc, I remember watching this one too originally. So this guy is Rice, whose picture apparently got cut off. So Usopp and Luffy are just fishing, and they end up fishing out a giant-looking Den Mushi. And inside of it is this man named Rice, who is a salesman. He has many different gadgets and gizmos, one of which is a 1,000-year map, which Nami really wants. She thinks she could draw her sea maps and everything from that, but it's really expensive, so they don't have enough. But eventually he learns that they're pirates, and he just runs and leaves it. So this one, you know, there's really not much to it. I think I'd have to go in the skip category. Another one, I'm sure you all remember, we all watch Zoro AMVs at night when we're inspired. I'm sure it's not just me. So Wicked Dick was one of the bandit bosses from Zoro's travels back in the day. His brother is Bandit Billy, and he's the leader of the Dick Bandits. Obviously, we all know where this one is going. Right here, Chef's Kiss. This is number 1. This has to be a Chef's Kiss, okay? I'm sorry. So lastly, in the post-Alabasta filler arc, there's a arc where Usopp helps a firework festival. It's really, there's just not that much. I think this is a skip. I don't think it's egregious enough to be put in a Who Are You, because it was in my memory, so I'm going to leave it in the skip category. Okay, so let's move on to the Goat Island arc. So this is the one where the Straw Hats are being chased by the Marines by a man named Sergeant Minchie. They end up using a bunch of whirlpools to evade the Marines, and they land on an island where they see a baby goat. And of course, what does Luffy do? Luffy wants to eat it, but everyone else says no. And eventually they get attacked by a bunch of adult goats. And Chopper learns that they are actually ordered to attack the Straw Hats, and they wonder by who. So out of the trees comes a man named Zenny, and he is a former moneylender who's been on this island for 20 years. So this arc is actually pretty good. There's a lot of funny moments. I probably can't convey them in as much detail and funniness as they should be, so I won't try. But the whole thing is that Chopper gives him a diagnosis that he has 3 days to live. So the Straw Hats start doing a bunch of chores for him, and he has a pirate ship that he's building in the mountains with the goats. Eventually, we find out that Zenny thinks the pirate ship is going to be his coffin, which is very odd. Because his whole thing is that he was a former moneylender who lended money to pirates, but he never was actually a pirate. But he wanted to be. Straw Hats are just doing chores for him. They think he's going to die in 3 days, which he doesn't. So they eventually think they're going to leave. But Sergeant Minchie of the Marines is working for Captain Moore of the Marines. But Minchie thinks there's a treasure that Zenny landed with on the island, which he's eventually right that there was originally a treasure that he landed with on the island, and he wants to get it before Moore attacks the Straw Hats. So eventually, Minchie attacks the Straw Hats and tricks them by taking Usopp hostage with a secret group that he deployed on the island while he's at the front of the beach talking to the Straw Hats, telling him that he's not going to attack them. Robin and Zenny, along with the goats, push the pirate ship down the entire mountain onto the water to go and attack the Marines. So Zenny, in his old age, finally gets to become a pirate, and the goats just start beating the crap out of Minchie. And eventually they defeat him, and then the Straw Hats get away from Captain Moore. And the treasure that Minchie was after and that the Straw Hats thought was there, because they knew about it as well, was real. It was actual cash, because he had sold the treasure before he got to the island. But he passed out when he got to the island, and the goats were eating the money as he woke up. So the treasure was never there. I'm going to put this in the I'd watch that category. I thought it was pretty good. A lot of funny moments. I would watch it if you have a try. Have time, rather. It's only 3 episodes. So the next one is the Ruluka Island arc. This one is the one about Rainbow Mist. This was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I watched this on my own just about 4 months ago whenever I'm feeling like I really want to watch some old One Piece, because it just captures a lot of what was good about One Piece. This one has a lot of mystery, a lot of intrigue, so as I said, a good one if you want to watch it. So there's this town that is being controlled by the mayor whose name is Wetton. In the past, Wetton was actually a pirate who attacked the town and now rules over it with his son and his grandson. The Straw Hats arrive and they meet a man named Henzo, who is a scientist. Henzo has been researching this thing called the Rainbow Mist. So the Rainbow Mist is this phenomenon that once pirates or people go into it, they never come out. So Henzo was an older man, but in the past, when he was a child, his friends went into the Rainbow Mist and never came back. So his whole thing is that he's trying to go in and get them out. And Wetton believes there's treasure in the Rainbow Mist, which he's right. So he wants to go in and get the treasure out. So what's really in the Rainbow Mist? This mysterious mist that's out in the ocean that they can get to from the town. So they're all right. Henzo's friends are there. Wetton's treasure is there. It's just a bunch of pirate ships. It's a pirate ship graveyard with all their treasure still there. And at the same time, the Straw Hats are being followed on the island by a Marine Major who doesn't interact with the Straw Hats or anyone at all. We just see him appearing from time to time. So as I was saying, a lot of mystery with this one. It's really good. So eventually, Wetton goes into the Rainbow Mist. He has a rainbow tower, and he has that tower that's vertical go horizontal into the ocean and into the Rainbow Mist. And before this happens, Straw Hats and Henzo already went into the Rainbow Mist, and I forgot why. I know why Henzo went. I think the Straw Hats accidentally went. I don't remember why, but a few of them went, and they end up finding Henzo's friends from back in the day. His friends are still kids. Time flows very slowly in the Rainbow Mist. It flows differently than the outside world. So they eventually find their friends. It takes a while for them to convince them that they need to come out. And at the same time, Wetton enters the Rainbow Mist, trying to get the treasure. So the Straw Hats end up fighting Wetton. A lot of stuff goes down. And then once his friends exit the Rainbow Mist, we finally see who the Marine Major is who's been tracking them. It's Rapa Nui. Rapa Nui is one of the friends of Henzo that was in the Rainbow Mist the whole time. But this is his older version. So there's like a time warp thing that was kind of confusing. I went on Reddit to try to figure it out, and I just ended up getting more confused. Rapa Nui, when he exited the Rainbow Mist, time had caught up to him, but he couldn't interact with anyone. Otherwise, that would probably warp time. They don't explain it, but Rapa Nui and his other friends were been part of Marines this whole time. Of course, I'm not great at explaining. I didn't do it great justice, but this has to go in Chef's Kiss. This was great. So next is the Ocean's Dream arc, which is right after the Davy back fight. This one is also really good, except with a few flaws, which we'll get to. It starts out at night. The Straw Hats are just outside of an island, and everyone is sleeping but Robin and supposedly Zoro. We see a kid with a seahorse-looking horn under the water blowing the horn. When the Straw Hats wake up, they have no idea where they are. They all lost their memories to basically before they became a part of the Straw Hat crew. So Robin's the only one who didn't lose her memory because she never fell asleep. Sanji thinks he's a cook at the Bratier. Usopp thinks he's he should be at Syrup Village. Nami thinks she still needs to go to Kokiyashi Village to free her village from Arlong. So no one knows where they're at. Eventually they start talking. Robin tries to convince them, and she does it in a very laissez-faire fashion, which I guess is just Robin. But if it were me, I would be doing everything to be like, hey, I know you, I know about you, I can convince you that I know you. I don't know. I'd be freaking out or trying a little bit harder. But Zoro and Nami end up leaving because they're like, screw this, I need to go back to what I was doing. When Nami enters the island docked right outside of, she meets the townspeople only when they come out of their houses when a bird drops a newspaper. And then they all run back in their houses after they fight for that newspaper. So something's going on. And then she ends up meeting this kid named Drim, the kid with the seahorse. He kind of talks to her and it's really creepy. But eventually, the next night, the kid with the seahorse comes back and blows the horn again. And this time, Robin and the rest of them are awake, or Robin hits them awake, and they attack the kid. But it doesn't work. because a seahorse has magical powers, which we'll get to in a second. But Luffy ends up hitting the seahorse, who gives him his memories back. Which is what we're going to get into right now, is the kid is being controlled by the seahorse. They don't actually get into it. So once Luffy gets his memories back, the rest of the crew, they're all like, okay, let's go find him. So they travel into the town, and this is where it starts to make no sense. Robin ends up reading a rock that says basically that the seahorse has abilities or something, which they never explain. I had to look it up myself. The seahorse is named Noko, and what he's trying to do is he's trying to collect memories so he can become a millennial dragon. And Noko has the Nemo no Mi, which allows him to trap people inside the dream world while they're asleep to power himself up, which makes no sense. They don't explain it at all. The part that makes no sense is, have we seen a sea animal eat a devil fruit? Because if he ate a devil fruit, I understand he's a seahorse. He's able to swim. And the only comparison I'm able to think of is Jack. Obviously, after Jack got defeated outside of Zoe, he was able to still survive in the water. He just couldn't move because Jack's half fishman. So I would assume the seahorse would be able to breathe underwater, sure, but can't move. So they don't explain it at all. And eventually, the Straw Hats meet him, and he's got enough memories still, and he tries to power up to become the millennial dragon he's wanted to be. And all it does is just makes him fat. So he can fly, but he doesn't look like a dragon at all. So this one was pretty good. There's a lot of mystery about what's happening with the memories, what's going on, but I think it just falls flat in the explaining what the hell's going on category. But again, I think it was fine. I'd put that in the I'd watch that category, not bad enough to be a skip. So next we have the mid-Enies Lobby flashbacks arcs. These are just straight up flashbacks with like 5 minutes of something in a different animation style for like 5 minutes. One of those episodes has a part where there's this gangster Straw Hats fighting each other. It's not great. This does touch on O'Hara, Saul with Robin's past, so there's that. But this is generally a skip for me unless you kind of enjoy the complete 180 of what One Piece is about. So next we have the first installment of the Feudal Japan arcs. So there's a lot of different filler arcs based in Feudal Japan where the Straw Hats, or some of them, have a shop that they run, and just different stuff happens in their town called Grand Jipang. This one is not, I don't know, I didn't think it was that good. This one is one where Buggy tries to sell a girl named Rika as a slave to make up for Panda Man's debts. So I didn't think it was that great. I'm going to put this in a skip. Now the next one is another Feudal Japan arc, and of course Foxy has to be in there because he's not filler, but he's everywhere in the filler arcs, which makes no sense to me. This is just another Feudal arc installment taking place in Grand Jipang. So this one's during Enies Lobby. They take a quick break to move to this, and I don't know why, because this one is also not great. There's a Sakura festival, and Carrot from the Usopp Pirates ends up getting sick. That's where we start to learn about the Sakura tree. He tells them that, hey, his other friends, you can go to the Sakura festival without me. So the day of the festival, there's a Sakura tree in the middle of town that's sacred, and it ends up getting stolen. Everyone ends up thinking it was Luffy because he was talking about wanting to show the Sakura tree to someone yesterday, but it ends up being Buggy who stole it for Foxy. Foxy doesn't pay Buggy any money, rather, and they fight. So we see the Buggy Ball versus the Slow Fruit, and it goes exactly how you would think it would go. I'm not going to spoil it, but if you want to watch it, it's exactly how you think it would go. And eventually Luffy and Zoro and Sanji beat the crap out of him. There's just not a lot of going on here. I mean, if you see a few characters you might enjoy to see again, you see Genzo, you see Cobra, you see Panda Man. He doesn't do anything, but he's there. You see a guy from Sky Island whose name I don't remember. I think it was probably the father of that girl they met. But yeah, again, this is just going in the skip. There's not much going on. Next up, we have the post Enies Lobby side stories. These are interesting. The first one is the one where Luffy helps a girl find her Yagura. Doesn't add anything for me. It's not great. And then next we have one that you guys might remember. Yes, this is the one where Zoro puts on a mama shirt for a whole episode. He meets Michael and Hoikel. They are foster children of a foster family in Water 7. Their mother ended up taking a loan from criminals, and she paid it back, but they want 10x interest. So she hires a pirate, or rather the lender hires a pirate to go forcibly get money from her. And Zoro ends up saving him. So that's the whole story, but that's not the point. The point is Zoro just straight up gets adopted into this family. The boys meet Zoro in town. He says, I need to find a sword or something. And they say, hey, we can help you. So they want to be his brother the entire episode, and he just keeps saying no. But eventually, they bring him to their foster house, and the mom also wants him to join the family and won't say no. So he has to wear this mama shirt, and there's a pretty funny scene. Again, I'm not going to be able to convey this well, but just trust me, where he's got the mama shirt on, and he's just walking around town just losing his crap because he sees Straw Hats everywhere or people he knows, and he's trying not to let anyone see him in that. But one character does, and it's Robin. So that's another moment for the Robin Zorro shippers out there. But this one was decent. I'd watch that. I think it was funny. I like what they were doing with it. I'm going to go with it. And then the last one, we have Bon Bon. So this is the third episode of the Post Ennie's Lobby side stories, where Sanji just cooks fried rice with Bon Bon. And I don't know about you. Have you guys seen that video of the guy on YouTube who cooks his fried rice? I have. So that's good enough for me. I'd watch that. Next, I'm going to skip Ice Hunter for a second and move on to the Spa Island arc. Boy, the Spa Island arc, I was excited to rewatch this one. I'm a sucker for cooking. I'm a sucker for aesthetic anime moments, especially in One Piece. The first scene was the best scene and maybe the only good scene of the entire arc. It's just a spa island. There's pools, there's slides, there's gambling in the pools, there's food, pretty women. It's a great first scene. But after that, there's not much. There's not much. So let's talk about what the hell went down. So the Straw Hats are just chilling on the island. There's some candy that falls from the sky, so they eat the candy. And then they run into this girl named Lena and her sea raccoon named Nuki. And the sea raccoon can transform into anything. He doesn't have a devil fruit. It's just his species. He's able to transform into anything. So there are some funny moments in here where, of course, Sanji goes, anything? And he transforms into Nami. But it's a really tiny Nami, so, he thinks it's good enough. But originally, Sanji's like, hey, can you transform into something beautiful? And he transformed into a beautiful sea raccoon. And, it was a good moment. But that was about the rest we're going to get. So they're talking to Lena and her sea raccoon, and they eventually meet Lena's sister, her older sister, named Sayo. Sayo has a book with her. And while they're talking to her, the Foxy Pirates appear and attack the Straw Hats and the kids in trying to get that book that Sayo was holding. The Foxy Pirates have this new, metal mirror contraption, and they all get in it, and it actually works. They take down the Straw Hats for a second, but then I think it's Frankie and Brooke appear, who were not with the group that was talking with the children, and then they save them, and they kick Foxy's butt. So Foxy's back again, for all of you Foxy lovers. But eventually we learn about the book. So the book is a guide from the kid's father, it's a guide about how to make gems, but it's missing one ingredient. Foxy wants that book and the one ingredient, and so does the owner of the Spa Island, who is hiring Foxy. So they go into some backstory about the father and how, the younger daughter thinks he's a horrible father, the older daughter thinks he's doing it for the right reasons. So it gets real dumb right after this. They've got 99% of the ingredients, but they need one more, and they want the book. The Spa Island was built because they think the ingredients in the area where it's at, the owner of it does. So eventually, the owner captures the older girl named Saya, who has the book. But the book, she gives it to Lena. So Lena, the younger daughter, has the book. And then this is where it just really goes off the rails. The owner tells the Straw Hats, hey, I need you to find that one ingredient, and if you don't, I'll kill her. And the Straw Hats go, okay, we're just going to destroy the whole island. That's how we're going to find it. And of course, the owner named Duran, he's not happy about that. So they start attacking the Straw Hats, and eventually they see the chimney on the Spa Island tilt over into a massive cannon. And then they show Sayo tied up to a pole where the cannon's aiming at her. Lena still has the book on the ground, and she's telling Sayo, hey, I'll give him the book, let me save you. And Sayo says, no, it's too valuable, don't give him the book, let him kill me. So, yes, the daughter said, hey, let me get blasted by a cannon, a massive cannon, just so they can't make gems. Yeah, I mean, really stupid. Even for One Piece, that's not that good. So eventually, they save her, and they figure out that the gem is really the one thing they needed was at the bottom of the ocean. And it was like a lava pool or something in the ocean that allowed a reverse rainbow to be appearing in the sky. So what they did is Lena and Sayo went back to their home. They found chemicals and I think in colors that matched the colors of the reverse rainbows, and they were able to make the gem. So there was just some really poor moments in this one. It's not bad enough for Who, because I remember being excited to watch it. So it goes in the skip category for me. Okay, and lastly we've got thank God, the last feudal arc. I thought I would really love the feudal arcs, but there's just not much to them. This is the one that's probably the best out of all of them. So we see some more crowd favorites. We see Iceberg, we see Masura and Shoju. They don't do anything, but they're there. We see Kami and Hachan. They don't do anything, but they're there. So this one, there's this grand portable shine race And I know that sounds confusing, but that's literally what it is. Like a shine, like something that's like a statue-esque thing. It's a race of those, so they're like carrying it around. So the race reward is 1 million Rio berries and a treasure that will supposedly grant a wish. Spoiler alert, you can see what the treasure is right there. The Straw Hats get Frankie to build a shrine for him, and some of the other teams we see that are also in the race are the Thriller Bark folks, but we don't see Moria, which is weird. And then we see the Fish Riders, led by Duval, of course, and then we see Lola and her group. Corona and the Thriller Bark Company, they end up using her abilities to get the rest of the competition out, except for the Straw Hats. The Straw Hats are attacked by them, but they're able to rebuild their shrine in time. They have a race where Igarum is the race starter, and they end up racing, and they end up beating the Thriller Bark Company. Once they get to the end of the race, Igarum shows them the treasure that hasn't been seen for 100 years. And it ended up being just a pair of women's panties. And the way the rumor goes is a woman has to be wearing the panty, and she'll get granted one wish. So I bet you can guess who volunteered someone to do that. It was Brooke. The 1 million Rio berries that Naomi was excited about, they don't get because they cause too much damage to the city. So this one's also going to go in the I'd watch that category. And moving a little forward again, we have a special retrospective before Marineford. This one is just a bunch of flashbacks. A bunch of Ace flashbacks, which, you know, I'm a big Ace guy. I wear an Ace necklace on the daily. I love me some Ace flashbacks, don't get me wrong. And then 458 is the episode where we see the warlords gather. It's Mihawk, Moria, Doflamingo, Hancock, and Kuma. And then we see the admirals gather. So it's a cool scene, a scene that I watched on YouTube a few times, but there's just not much to this arc. So, I mean, you can skip it, but again, you know, if you like Ace scenes like I do, then sure, you can do that. Okay, so now we're going to go back in time a little bit. We're going to skip G8 for a second and go to Little East Blue. Little East Blue was one of those I liked a lot. I don't know if everyone liked it as much as me. I think it's just the Amigo Pirates for me. Just the first scene, they're all just having a good time. And then they have some good themes in there. I actually listened to a YouTube theme of the Amigo Pirates because I think it's pretty good. Largo's good on the guitar. Largo has the Net Fruit, and his whole thing, this is I think this was the arc Shiki's, I'm blanking on the name. The movie with Shiki, Strong World. Jeez, I don't know why I couldn't think of Strong World. But this is the arc for Shiki's movie, and they're trying to work for them, which seems to be quite the common theme among filler arcs related to the movies. But Largo has a Net Fruit, which allows him to cast nets, kind of similar to Hina. But Largo can also like eat stuff, like eat something hot. His nets can become fiery and stuff like that. So anyways, they arrive on this island, Little East Blue, and Luffy and the crew end up fighting them, and it's pretty good. It kind of gives you a throwback to East Blue if you're looking for that. I always like the East Blue kind of stuff. So I think this is definitely a chef's kiss moment for me. And then again, skipping past G8, there's the arcs with Luffy, Toriko, and the Dragon Ball Z people. It's not for me. I didn't really watch any of those other animes. I never even watched Dragon Ball, so I'm just going to put this in a skip category simply because it's not for me. I'm sorry if it was for you, you know. Okay, so let's go shift back to the Ice Hunter arc. This was another one I really enjoyed. The Straw Hats are traveling in a icy area. So let's shift to the Ice Hunter arc. This was one I really enjoyed. So the Straw Hats end up entering this Arctic-esque area. And it ends up being that the glaciers can move on their own to kind of guide the Straw Hats through this Arctic area where they want them to go. And they're being moved by these penguins. These penguins are working for the Don Achino family. And the Don Achino family for me is pretty hit or miss. The two older brothers I thought were really disappointing. The hockey guy, you know, it's cool. He can shoot hockey pucks at like freeze stuff that they hit. Okay, whatever. The couple I thought was a little bit of a beating. Just the couple that just skates around and that's how they do their stuff. So I didn't think they were great. But anyways, so they're all a part of this family of bounty hunters. So the children are trying to capture all the Straw Hats for Don Achino. And they end up capturing most of them. Robin, except, does not get captured because there's the youngest daughter of the Don Achino family ends up liking Robin. So Robin's able to save them. But the best part for me about this whole arc, the part I really enjoyed the most and the thing that I remembered before I even rewatched it, is right when Don Achino is about to start facing Luffy, he just shows him his Devil Fruit power and some of the stuff it can do. Don Achino has the Atsu no Mi. He's the leader of the family, by the way. I don't know if I said that. It's a Paramesa Devil Fruit that lets him control heat. So it's another one of these heat-based Devil Fruits. There's just so many of them. But right when he starts to face Luffy, he's like, look, I can slide around the ice. And then Luffy's like, ooh, I can slide around the ice too. And they're like, hey, you're a pretty cool guy. So they have this moment that I think is pretty funny where they just are like, hey, you're pretty cool. We shouldn't fight. And then they get back to fighting. But anyways, I thought this one was pretty good. I don't think it was chef's kiss worthy, but it was, I'd watch it. I thought Donachino was enjoyable. And they also work along this group called the Phoenix Pirates, who are led by a guy named Puzzle. I thought Puzzle was cool. It wasn't great. It wasn't bad. But this arc overall was decent. I would watch it. Okay. And then let's go with, we all know where this is going. Probably everyone's favorite arc in One Piece, filler-wise, G8. And what am I doing? My picture, I have Major Shepherd and Jonathan. I don't know why I didn't put Kondo Oriano, or how some people know him, Kondi Oriano. So that's a mistake on my point. He's going to be in the thumbnail, so don't, you'll see your Kondo Oriano. Okay, you'll see him. But I'll give a quick recap of this one. I'm sure most of you already have watched it and have a decent memory of it. This is right after Skypiea. So the Straw Hats land inside of the base, and they end up having to leave the Merry and disperse. So the whole thing is they're trying to get the Merry back and get out of the Marine base, obviously. The Marine base is called Navarone. It's led by Marine Vice Admiral Jonathan. And this is another part, where, I mentioned I was a pre-time skip homer. If you continue to watch my channel, you're going to see what I'm talking about. Allegedly, every Vice Admiral knows hockey. And of course, this is just a timing issue for Oda. But, Jonathan doesn't know hockey. He does, allegedly. But it just bugs me that he's supposed to know hockey. And obviously, we never see it. But yeah, Jonathan's whole thing is that he's not very strong, but he's a tactician. So he's trying to catch the Straw Hats as they're around their base. And I think I am not a majority opinion here. I don't have the majority opinion. I don't love Jonathan as much as everyone else. I loved the rest of the arc a lot more than Jonathan. It's just tough for me to buy a antagonist because he's not really a villain. He's more just an antagonist. That's whole thing is that he's just trying to outsmart the Straw Hats. It's tough for me to buy that. Adventure of Neverlandia. Did anyone know that movie existed? Am I the only one that just recently discovered that movie existed? Again, it's tough for me to not know that something even exists in relation to One Piece. I watched Adventure of Neverlandia the other day, a couple months ago, and it's the same thing, basically. It's another Marine Vice Admiral who is, his whole thing is about he's a tactician, so it's just tough for me to believe it. Anyways, G8, the reason we all love it, there's a couple of great moments in this. Eventually, a few of the Straw Hats get captured. Usopp is captured, Luffy is captured, and Sanji is trying to go save them. And Sanji can't break the bar, so Usopp says, reach in my pocket, I have a blastile. So Sanji, at this point, the Marines are watching him, they see him trying to free them, and Sanji hits the blastile. It ends up just being a fart, and it's a pretty funny scene. They wonder who put the fart in the blastile, and it ended up being Luffy, who would have guessed. So the Marines are like, well, your big move, huh? You farted? And then Sanji basically says, I'll gut you. It's a pretty good scene. I can't do it justice. And then the other scene that's my favorite one in G8 is the one where Major Shepherd just absolutely screws everything up and he just blasts the cannon or the rocket backwards in the vault room. That was pretty good. And I really also enjoyed there's a bunch of cooking scenes in here. While I'm talking, I'm just going to put it in Chef's Kiss because we all know it probably needs to be number one. And let's move Wicked Dick to the back because it's not really deserved. There's a bunch of cooking scenes where Luffy and Sanji are cooking. It's really Sanji doing all the cooking and Luffy doing all the eating. And there's a scene where Luffy gives the food to Jonathan that he's about to eat, but he ends up eating it from his plate as Jonathan's eating it. Luffy just reaches over with his gum fruit. So it's pretty good. And then, of course, there's the legend, the man, the myth, Kondo Oriano, who is really a Major Shepherd. You see in the top left there in that picture of Robin, she's wearing Major Shepherd's clothes because she took him out when he arrived on the base and took his clothes and tried to impersonate him. He ended up throwing on the brig. He is a special investigator for the Marines that is investigating Navarone to see if it really needs to be still operational because it is a base that hasn't seen a lot of action. She takes his clothes, he wakes up, he gets thrown in the brig once some of the Marines find him, and he's trying to tell them, hey, I'm Special Investigator Shepherd. No one believes him. Usopp is like, oh, once Shepherd gets thrown in jail with him, hey, it's Kondo Oriano. And there's this whole thing where he's potentially a Straw Hat, and they're trying to fool the Marines into thinking he's a Straw Hat named Kondo Oriano. So it was really good. I probably didn't do this arc as much justice as I needed to. But yeah, this is the one, if you're going to watch one, I would watch this one. Okay, so next we have the Caesar Retrieval arc. This is one of those New World arcs, and it's really difficult for me to enjoy the New World arcs. Simply because we just understand the power level so much. It's just hard for me to buy random villain that can beat the Straw Hats after they've beaten Emperors and Doflamingo. It's just hard for me to buy that. This is after they have Caesar, and they are traveling, and they meet a man named Breed who kidnapped Caesar. So Law and Luffy go to try to get him back. They learn that Breed has a devil fruit called the Pito Pito no Mi, which puts a collar. When he puts a collar on something, he can control them. So some of you might like this arc, for various reasons. So Luffy and Law end up getting controlled for a bit, and it's pretty short. It's not that great. It's only 3 episodes, but they end up getting Caesar back, and yeah, not much you're missing there. Okay, so next we have the Z's Ambition arc. So this is the movie that ties in with Film Z. The Straw Hats, they realize their food is being eaten. It's being eaten by this little girl named Lily, who by little I mean miniature. Lily ends up being a giant who ate a devil fruit that allows her to turn into a mini person called the Mini Fruit, even though she retains all the strength of being a giant. What we learn about Lily is that she's in the New World looking for her dad, Pans Fry, who has been captured by the Marines, and she's trying to save him. What he does is he is a cook who steals food from pirates and the Marines and gives it to the poor, and he has a 320 million berry bounty. So pretty good at that point in the story. I think Luffy is either 500 million or below 500 million, so Pans Fry is a pretty big deal. So the Straw Hats are looking for Pans Fry to save him, and the Neo Marines, led by Shuzo, are looking for Pans Fry to kill him, because their whole goal is to eliminate all the pirates from the world. Shuzo is a member of the Neo Marines. Another filler arc related to a movie where it's a antagonist who is trying to impress or be a part of the group of the next movie coming in. So he is already part of the Neo Marines, but his whole goal is he wants to be second in command. Currently second in command of the Neo Marines was the girl named Aang. So he's hoping if he kills Pans Fry, he will get moved up. So he and the Straw Hats end up finding the Marines who are carrying Pans Fry, and it's Momonga. So hey, the only Vice Admiral that I think is actually relevant to the story moving forward, which is great. So the Straw Hats end up fighting the Marines, and so do the Neo Marines. The Straw Hats end up getting Pans Fry and saving him and moving him away to an island. And Shuzo ends up fighting the Marines after the Straw Hats left and wins. So Shuzo tracks down the Straw Hats to an island and fights them again. Shuzo is interesting because he uses techniques that we don't see a lot in the New World. He does have armament hockey, but he uses the Rokushiki techniques. He uses Iron Body, he uses Finger Pistol, so an interesting strategy to be fighting against post-time skip Luffy, but I digress. The way they end up beating him, Lily goes into Luffy's body on accident. She's been talking about how, hey, I can shrink down and get into someone's body. I can become a giant and make them explode. So she's violent. She tries to get Usopp to shoot her into Shuzo's mouth, and he blocks it with Luffy's body, which he's holding, and she goes into Luffy's mouth. So since Luffy's rubber, she expands, and Luffy becomes a giant and just stomps the crap out of Shuzo. It's a good arc. I enjoy seeing Momonga. I think it was probably the best post-time skip filler arc, or one of them. I could actually watch it and feel something. So, it was good. So next we have the Silver Mine arc. So this is the one that ties into Film Gold. So it starts with the Straw Hats just chilling in the New World. Bartolomeo and Luffy end up getting captured by a group of women who throw a fishing pole with meat attached to it onto the ship. Once they get captured, they get brought back to a silver mine island led by a man named Bill, who, again, his goal is to be... his goal isn't to be a part of Tesoro's group. This movie is related to Film Gold. He wants to take down the Emperors. He wants to be a great pirate himself, but he does work with Tesoro. So he still goes with that same theme here, which makes sense, I guess, because they're related to movies, but I digress. So Bill has the smelt fruit, which is kind of another heat-based devil fruit. It leads the Silver Pirate Alliance. So the whole arc is Luffy and Bartolomeo are trying to escape from the island that they were taken captive of, and it just falls into the same problems I have with a lot of the other New World filler arcs. It's just hard for me to believe that this villain's any threat, and the writers knew that, because Luffy and Barto get just nerfed right at the beginning of the arc when they get captured, so they can't use their devil fruits for a while, and then once they do, obviously they beat the crap out of Bill. It's nothing great, and the worst part about this arc is there's like 3 separate cringy one-liners that I'm glad I didn't write down, but I remember that was not super enjoyable. So this one is going to be in my skip category. It's not a who moment, but So next we have, is that female Nami? What? So that's the 20th anniversary Romance Dawn special, where Oda released some of his other ideas for the beginning of One Piece. So it's an alternate universe where we just see Luffy on a boat, not in a barrel. He gets greeted by a panda-looking bird, and he ends up hearing that the bird's name is Balloon from some lady on a boat reaching out to him. It's a blue-haired girl named Anne, who I guess is one of Oda's earlier designs for Nami. She and the bird are actually captured by the pirates that are on the ship that she's already on, by a pirate by the name of Six Hones Spiel. He's a captain. He's also a sorcerer, so I don't think they explained his devil fruit. I didn't catch that when I watched it, so I don't know if he has a devil fruit, or if he just has some magic ability that's unexplained, like Curse of Holy Sword, if anyone knows what I'm getting at. So anyways, Luffy insults him, and he gets thrown in the brig with Anne. Luffy, in this arc, wants to be a peace maid, which is a good pirate fighting against bad pirates named the Morganeers, which are pirates that he's on the ship of. They're Morganeers. This is the one where you might remember a few things, or you might have seen something and went, what the hell is this? What I mean by that is, in this version, Garp is a pirate. Yeah, he's a pirate. He's got the straw hat and everything. And he is the one who guides Luffy to becoming a pirate. He gives him the straw hat, and he eats the gum fruit from Garp. So yeah, is this an alternate universe, or is it hell? I don't know. You tell me. I don't know. But anyways, Luffy and Anne escaped the jail, right? And you would think Luffy, who had gotten captured and had seen pirates doing bad things, would want to beat the pirates. But no. Anne asks him, hey, can you say balloon? He's like, nah, I'm good. He just leaves. And he says, nah, I'm good. But eventually, Luffy does decide to kick their butts, and yeah, that's really it. It's just a couple weird moments there. You see Garp is a pirate. Luffy doesn't care about fighting bad pirates, even though he said he did already. So it's a weird one. It's not amazing, but it's not skippable. It's so, different than everything else. So I'd put that in the I'd watch that category. Okay, so next we have the Marine Rookie arc. So this is the one right after Zoe. So the Sanji Retrieval Squad ends up needing food, so they see a marine base on Thrawn Island. So this marine base, their whole goal is they keep an eye on Whole Cake Island. The marine base is headed by Vice Admiral Prody. A unit from Garp's group is transferred to the base. One of the members of the unit named All Hunt Grount asked to be transferred there. He's 17 years old, and he's already a captain in the Marines. And his goal is to take down Big Mom. So he worked under Garp, he also worked under Kuzan, and he has a Zoan devil fruit that makes his left arm big with red fur and claws. It's a decent arc. I mean, I enjoyed it. Again, I think it just, follows under that same category of I just can't buy that a 17-year-old rookie is going to defeat the Straw Hats. But I am glad that they showed us, some of the younger Marines aside from Kobe that are doing something, because surely there are some counterparts to the Straw Hats that are young, that have goals in the Marines. So I think this is fine. I put it in the I watch that category. So next we have the Cider Guild arc, and it's the arc that ties in with Stampede. Cider Guild claims they're the best bounty hunters in the world. And, again, I understand they're supposed to be the best bounty hunters in the world. So good that Festa even said, hey, I'm bringing you in to our plan. So Festa calls Cider at the very beginning of the arc and says, hey, I want you in on our plan. Me and Douglas Bullet, we're going to attack the Pirate Festival and eliminate all the pirates. So clearly, Cider is strong. The problem is, on his island is a Boa Hancock he doesn't know about. And then Luffy also travels to his island after Cider attacks him, but they get away. And you can imagine the power of a warlord and a Luffy at that point would be able to beat the crap out of a bounty hunting group. So they do. There's nothing special with it. There are some Boa Hancock scenes, so if you're into that, that's good for you. It's not bad enough to be a who, but I think it's good enough to be a skip. Not one I would watch if I were you. It doesn't add a lot. So I'm going to skip Film Red for a second and move on to the Wano episode. This is just a singular episode where they depart Wano, and it focuses on the Straw Hats saying goodbye. Luffy and the Red Scabbards visit Kuri Castle, and they pay their respects to Odin. Zoro vows to Master Enma. There's just not that much that happens in this one. I kind of want to put it in Who, but I'm not going to out of respect for Wano. Yeah, and that moves on to our last filler arc. Yes, this has been a long-ass video. The Film Red tie-in. I thought this was fine. I enjoyed this. It starts with New Genesis playing, and I really enjoyed New Genesis. And then we move to Fuchsia Village with baby Luffy. Luffy at this point is 7 years old, so this is before he ate the fruit, before he met Shanks. We see young Uta, who is 9 years old at this point, on Shanks' ship. And interestingly enough, while Shanks and his crew and Uta are traveling, Uta sees the Goma Goma Numi, and this is before she's eaten her fruit, I think. And she says, hey, can I have that? And Shanks says, no, this treasure is not for you. So In a different world, Uta eats the Gumma Gumma no Mi, and it gets really weird. The Straw Hats arrive on Fuchsia Village, and they get met by Luffy, who issues threats. Yeah, starts threatening them. So that's how he meets Shanks. So he ends up meeting, and they start talking, and Luffy becomes decent friends with the Red Hair Pirates. At this point, he's also getting to know Uta. And one of the things Uta does is she mentions that she's the musician of the crew, and Shanks says every crew needs one. Which makes me wonder, is that the moment where Luffy decided that he needed to have someone like Brook? I think so. I think that's where that came from. So that was interesting to see. So Uta, they become friends. She shows that she can sing, and there's an interesting scene where Luffy starts to sing, and it's horrible. So that happens. So eventually they start to become friends after Uta initially didn't like him, and eventually Shanks, Uta, and the crew leave. When they return to the village, everybody is sad, and Shanks, by everybody I mean the Red Hair Pirates, and Shanks is ignoring Luffy. They then turn the color shade all the way red, and Luffy is like, hey, where's Uta? And she's not anywhere to be found. Shanks tells her that she left to become a singer. Luffy can't believe it, and Shanks just like hits him, but Luffy doesn't react at all. They just keep talking, so that was weird. And then we of course see the news that Elegia was destroyed, and it was destroyed by Shanks. And Sengoku is like, wow, he's showing his true colors now. So everyone clearly had no idea what had happened, even though I think Sengoku was the one that said that Top Musica was released. So anyways, this was good. I'd watch that. Again, Shanks is like in my ace category where it's like, yeah, when he's on screen, I'm going to watch it. So this is my filler arc ranking. Wow, that was a long first video. If anyone at all made it all the way here, thank you for watching. Really appreciate it. Obviously, this is my first video, so any constructive criticism or anything, I'd really appreciate it. Or if you say, hey, I have a video idea for you, sure, shoot. If there's any commented video that everyone wants me to do, I'll go and film that. So yeah, thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoyed.